On May the 5th, Twyla Jones.
Here.
David Albright.
Here.
Doug Detweiler.
Here.
Russell Sipin here. Dean Martin.
Here.
Drew Ramito reported he will be absent this evening, more than likely as he was unable to get a flight back here in time. Jenny Spira.
Here.
Jay Magnus.
Here.
And Kimberly Monachino.
Here.
All right. Before we jump to approval of minutes or anything like that, I'm going to call on Councilman Sorese, who I am aware has something to say, but also needs to get to another meeting. So, Councilman?
Thanks, Mr. Sipin. I just wanted to mention that I announced at the last council meeting the work that this committee has been doing, and we're closing in on the finish, and that we will be expecting this group to be at the council meeting hopefully the end of May, if you're concluded, no later than the June 10th meeting, so that we can get our 3 readings and get this completed. But what we would like is to have you all in attendance, if possible, at that council meeting, and make your presentation with whatever recommendations you're going to bring forward to council, with a brief description of each, and maybe your thought process, if you want to go into that, of why you're bringing forward what you're going to bring to us. So I just wanted to make sure that we're looking forward on that schedule, and that we're completed and ready to present by June 10th. And so that gives us the rest of this month really to get it done. But I'm assuming there's no meeting for this committee next week, but we'll be back on the 19th, I'm guessing, or something like that.
I would say if necessary, yes.
Okay.
But we'll see what happens tonight.
Right, yeah. I was thinking you may be completing it tonight, but we wanted to schedule it. I know we have a couple other presentations at our May meetings, so maybe June 10th meeting would be the best, but we'll work that out once.
If it were the last meeting in May, what would the date be? Or it would be the second,
Tuesday, right?
the third, which Tuesday?
Last meeting in May would be the 27th.
Thank-
Meetings this month are the 13th and 27th.
Okay.
And that would be okay, too, to present that during the council meeting. We have something going on before in the caucus, but I think your presentation should be done in the live council meeting, because that's the filmed part that will go out to the community, and I think they need to know what you've gone through and what you've decided for recommendations. Any other questions for me? My apologies, I hate to miss this meeting, but I have a meeting at the board office that I have to get to, so, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to take a look at the minutes, but as I believe we all just received these, would you like to perhaps just read over them real quick out loud to make sure that we have all reviewed them, or would you prefer to read them silently on your own?
Reading them silently is fine.
That's silent.
Okay.
a business.
Has everyone had a chance to review the minutes? Is there any discussion? Can I make a motion that we accept
Misspellings on the third page.
misspellings on the third page?
Under new business, bullet point 2, the unofficial poll,
P-O-L-L.
yes. And also, again, in the fourth bullet point, we have a poll instead of a poll.
Well, we will correct those, and I would make a motion that we accept the minutes as spell-checked. Is there a second?
Second.
I will call the roll. Twyla Jones,
Yes.
Dave Albright,
Yes.
Doug Detweiler,
Yes.
Russell Sipin, yes. Dean Martin.
Yes.
Jenny Spira,
Yes.
Jay Magnus,
Yes.
and Kimberly Monachino.
Yes.
Unanimously approved as amended. We move on to the audience participation this evening. There being none, we will move on to old business, which sits before us in the form of draft legislation, and I will turn the microphone over to Mr. Maestros. Mr. Maestros, the top one that I have is draft 3.01. I'm wondering if you'd like to begin with that.
Thank you, Mr. Sipin, and I apologize for the members getting these in front of you just tonight. May kind of snuck up on us. Didn't realize it was already the first Monday in May, and then as we were putting these together, but all of these, I believe you've at least discussed or seen preliminary language, and this is just dropping into the resolutions. 3.01, which is the first one that you have in front of you, would be the resolution, and as you recall from the prior resolutions we discussed, the real meat of this occurs in being section 2 as far as what's being proposed. And this was the term of council that we changed it to read: the council members elect shall assume office on the first day of December next following their election. And the regular term of council members shall be 4 years. So we have a date certain of when the term begins and when the term ends. After, yeah, I mean, change that before it goes to council. Or following, actually.
All right, I'm okay with this. Everyone's still reading it, looking it over? Okay.
And that's literally the only change on this.
That was, I mean, there was that language that said at the first meeting in December is the old language, which was confusing because that was always a moving target, so
Yep. Yep.
we just made a date certain.
Good by me.
Does the elimination of the wards 4 and 5 and that whole thing, is that part of this, or that doesn't need to be on the ballot, or?
Well, it's part of that in the sense that that was the startup language in order to stagger them, but once we cross the 4 years beyond that, it's,
But I mean, removing that is part of this or not part of this?
well, it's part of it in that if they adopt it, that old language is off.
It's just gone because
So,
this
yeah,
is what's on there.
Correct. So this would be what's in section 3, or I'm sorry, section 2. If it's adopted, this would be how the charter reads now.
Okay.
All right, is there any more discussion on this? All right, there being none, I will make oh, I thought you were gonna say something. I'm gonna make a motion that we accept the draft legislation and approve this to be sent to council for approval and placed on the ballot. I will call the roll. Twyla Jones. David Albright.
Yes.
Doug Detweiler.
Yes.
Russ Sipin, yes. Dean Martin.
Yes.
Jenny Spira.
Yes.
Jay Magnus.
Yes.
And Kimberly Monachino.
Yes.
It passes 7-0, which is unanimous today.
8.
6-8.
Oh, it is it? Oh, yeah, my math. I make a living with numbers too, isn't that scary? All right, Mr. Maestros, you're on a roll. Would you like to
Thank
go
you.
to 4.05?
Next one, which relates to section 4.05. This has already been before you in one form, but we made a change, if you recall, at the last meeting, that being in section B, the legislative section. And just to clarify, this does have the changes that Commission already approved in section A, the executive regarding the mayor and director of public safety. Section B contains the change, that being that the mayor shall be entitled to a seat on council, but shall have no vote therein, except, the new language, except the mayor shall have a vote on the appointment to all boards and commissions. And that's the only change in the balance of that.
Bless you.
So there's going to be, we're proposing 2 amendments to 4.05, correct? One would be A, and the second would be in section B.
Well, it depends on how we want to go about it. And there's 2 of these that we're going to have discussion on tonight, and I just need direction from you. This being one, we can put 4.05, I mean, we can do 4.05 in one section on the ballot as far as changes of the powers of the mayor as it relates to being the safety director and having a vote on boards and commissions, or we can separate those into 2 ballot issues, just like the discussion we'll have on civil service issue later on also. So I'm not sure which direction the commission feels strongly about.
I would prefer that they're broken out separately.
Maybe confusing,
Lot.
yeah. Separate?
Yeah,
Is it
I'm just concerned that if there's too much at one time, they're going to
Yeah.
not understand what we're trying to do. Right?
I think you're gonna get a lot of no votes just based on quantity. Just looks like a lot, so I'll vote no.
To keep them, so to keep them separate.
That's my opinion, yeah.
But this revision, though, is basically this red stuff, right? So that added and then just a few things sprinkled in there? Is that right?
Well, what you've already approved is A, the amendments to A.
That look
Okay, so,
like that, right? Just
Correct.
adding the mayor shall serve as director of public safety, yeah.
correct. So that's already been approved on one resolution. We'll have that as a separate ballot issue. We'll treat this as a separate ballot issue, just dealing with section B only. So if you look at just section B, the only change is that the mayor will have a vote on appointments to all boards and commissions. That's the only change. So we'll have it in 2. You've already approved one a couple
Right.
meetings ago, and then this one will just be as it relates to B, and I'll take out the language, and I'll take out A in its entirety.
That was going to be my question. So with what we just discussed now, we would be removing section A from here. Section A would go on, as we've already approved, though.
Correct.
So would you all like to take a vote now accepting 4.05 as amended with the removal of section A from the ballot language?
So we'd have 4.05A and 4.05B.
Correct.
Right, so we will call this one 4.05B.
B, correct.
Yeah, I will make a motion that we accept 4.05B with the consideration that 4.05A has already been approved at a previous meeting.
Thank you, Doug. Is there a second?
Seconded?
Seconded by Jenny. I will call the roll. Twyla Jones.
Yes.
Dave Albright.
Yes.
Doug Detweiler.
Yes.
Russ Sipin, yes. Dean Martin.
Yes.
Jenny Spira.
Yes.
Jay Magnus.
Yes.
And Kimberly Monachino.
Yes.
approved. 8-0. Mr. Maestros?
The next item is 7.05 as it relates to the Civil Service Commission. And this, if we can look at this in the same light, because I spoke with the mayor today. I had two different notes on this, whether or not we agreed to split it or did not agree to split it. So I put it in one because it's much easier to then separate it into an A and a B, just like we did. If you look at Section A under Civil Service, in this we have cleaned up, removed the items that we talked about last time, included Director of Community Planning and Development, included the Law Director, and all other department heads currently as they sit with the city. We did add the Executive Secretary, I think item 11, Executive Secretary of the Fire Department and Executive Secretary to the Police Department. And we removed in item 6, part-time before secretary. So it just reads secretary to the Civil Service Commission. In addition, we removed all persons employed by any court of record, which is no longer applicable. And all employees of the public library. And the clerk of the Board of Education, who we do not provide civil service. So those are the changes to A, and those changes will be consistent with how the Civil Service Commission currently operates under the exact same set of rules. And their language is identical to what you have. And did you want to address that A first before we go to
Let's
B?
talk about A first.
Okay.
So is there any discussion? I mean, this looks, and I'm running over the notes right now, that it seems to be, I'm going to get the charter out and see the differences.
I just have one question, maybe neither here nor there, but number 9, one secretary to the mayor, and then number 11, executive secretaries. Is there a difference? Is it?
I was just
one and
looking
the
at
same?
that, and they should probably all say executive secretary.
Okay.
I would agree.
So what are we proposing be changed right there?
So number 9, under section A, number 9, would, instead of reading one secretary, would read executive secretary.
So one executive secretary? Or just executive secretary? Are we striking one out of there and replacing it?
I would assume we're going to strike 1,
Mhm.
just because of the way 11 is written, yes.
Just have it read Executive Secretary to the mayor, correct?
Okay.
On OCD, those two should probably be flipped around too. That doesn't really.
And refresh my memory, or repeat if you already said this, Mr. Maestros, but we did strike out of here the clerk of the Board of Education.
Correct.
And once again, that was done just to make it match what reality is.
Correct,
Okay,
in
okay.
addition to the employees of the public library. That was also struck.
Good. Now, I know that we did talk about breaking this up at the last meeting and doing it in Section A and Section B, and I still feel that that's the way it should be done.
Agree?
Agree?
This, if we go with everything we've done here, we've got 9 that we're putting on the ballot. And I don't know, maybe we're starting to get the saturation point, that would make 10 if we split those up. I don't know whether that's good or bad or.
No, I
council
completely understand what you're saying, because
may not approve, put all 10 of these things on the ballot, but I don't know, I'm just starting to count like, holy cow, I don't know, like I said, neither here nor there, but it's a big number.
I know that in the past, we have always addressed the number of changes, but because of the fact that some of these are so voluminous, you know, the one we just dealt with, and then 705 with the length of that, I feel it's probably still the safest way to go.
Yeah.
Cross your fingers.
Well, we're gonna put out publications trying to educate the voters as to what's going on, because it does look like a lot.
Well, these will be
Yeah.
talked about in the bulletin, correct, or?
We talked about in the bulletin, we're gonna have them on 3 readings of council.
Right.
There'll be, like I said, we will direct people to the website portion for this commission has its own website with all this information on there that we wanna direct people to. So it's available.
Okay. So would we like to vote on, shall we call it 705A right now, and do this vote under the agreement that Mr. Maestros will break this up? Or would you prefer to see it broken up and then?
We definitely want to break it up. I mean,
Well,
I guess to a certain point with Dave that it is getting a bit overwhelming, but
I'm not opposed to keeping it as is. I will go with the
I do think it would
wisdom of the crowd here.
probably be better to break it up. I'm coming from both sides.
So you want to break it up, but not really.
Put it on there both ways.
From the standpoint that it's 2 entirely different things we're doing here. And if they were related, I'd say maybe. And I understand we are getting a lot, but I guess my feeling is it should be split.
It's all, it's not very controversial stuff.
Right. that's-
But
look at
It's
the-
not controversial,
words.
but it did fail once, if I'm not mistaken, right? Because there was some rumor floating around that this somehow affected the police and the fire chief, if memory serves, something.
Yeah, something that it solely affected them, but I mean, really what we have here is every department head currently as they sit in the city is listed. So everybody, I mean, nobody's in a different boat than the next would be, I guess. But, I mean, I guess my response would be that while they're 2 different issues being A and B, it is setting forth and designating the unclassified and the classified service under the civil service as our civil service rules currently are applying. So, I guess my advice to the Civil Service Commission would be that if part of this failed, would be to amend their rules to be consistent with the charter. So, you know, I'm almost of the mind to say it's really one package. I mean, this is one item. It's the classified and unclassified civil service as not only coming from this board, but coming from the Civil Service Commission that uses
Right.
these rules on a daily, weekly basis. So, I understand part could pass and part could fail, and if that happens, Civil Service Commission's gonna be taking some action to amend their rules to be consistent. I mean, I just.
But they really can't because they have the problem that they don't list both the competitive and non-competitive groups.
They wouldn't be able to change everything, obviously. Because it would be outdated, it wouldn't be serviceable. But I do agree with Dave, I mean, this is the whole content of civil service. This is what they deal with, classified, non-classified. You're defining what classified is, you're defining what unclassified is. I don't see how you do one definition without the other, because they both are interdependent.
So you're kind of the mindset
I'm
that
of the mindset on this one that it just all goes.
keep it together as a package.
And I think I agree with Mr. Albright. I mean, you know, it's not controversial. This is kind of just
it's like
cleaning
cleaning up
things up,
language,
you know.
right? I mean,
It really is. I mean,
It is.
unless somebody's confused about what it is and just rejects it because it's confusing, but.
right. I mean, it really is. If somebody
confusing
takes the
one.
time to look, what's being done is, you know, we're removing positions that no longer exist, positions that the city has absolutely no authority or control over, and adding positions that do exist that haven't been included. I mean, this is all house cleaning items that should be done.
Is it possible in the language to say, charter of the city of Twinsburg be amended to update all directors of departments, update the list of all directors, so if they see it as an update rather than a,
In the ballot language, the
yeah.
proposed ballot
the
language?
proposed ballot language, would that be more clear if we were kind of, and I don't know, that's a legal question for you, but,
I mean, we could do that. The Board of Elections, I mean, like I said, they're gonna have the
Right.
full ballot, the full language there, and then that's gonna be the ballot issue. And they'll, they work with us as far as that, so,
it does say amend the balance of the section to be consistent with the civil service rules.
yeah, I did add that, which is different language than we had 4 years ago, which is just amend the civil service section.
Right.
I tried to give some flavor of why we're doing it.
I got a quick question. When we put information on the website, or the city does, on what we're doing and what ballots are coming up on the election, is it basically in plain English, like, this amendment is going to just clarify things, positions on what's existent currently in the city and what was non-existent in the city?
I think that's our goal this time around, is to do that. I mean, some of them are fairly clear. If when we get to it, if you decide to do away or propose to do away with the mayoral primary, I think that's clear. This, I think, needs some clarification, and we can put together a short one sentence, what it is, what it actually says, what it means.
What we're changing and...
Right. But, I'll talk to Mark, and we'll see on the website, we can put up, a red line version, so people actually see what the current language is. And I think if people actually go there and look and say, oh, all employees of the public library, I mean, that makes sense. Board of Education, that makes sense to remove those. And then the other ones that aren't included that we would be including, hopefully that will clarify to most people.
Okay.
All right, so are you suggesting, Mr. Maestros, that we do just keep that word include all directors of departments, or would?
Well, I mean, that's, what that part talks, what I refer to in there is include all directors, that's really section A. Section B is, and the balance of the section consistent with the civil service rules. I mean,
Okay.
that, I tried to get that, the essence of what we're doing here, because I think that's what it is. We're including everybody and just cleaning up the rest, but, I mean, I can play with that language if the commission wants me to.
I see no reason unless somebody else sees a reason to do it. Is there any more discussion on this? So I will make the motion that we accept the draft 7.05 for the modification of both sections, A and B, to be presented to council to be placed on the ballot. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, moved and seconded by Mr. Martin. I will call the roll. Twyla Jones.
Yes.
David Albright.
Yes.
Doug Detweiler.
Yes.
Russ Sipin, yes. Dean Martin.
Yes.
Jenny Spira.
Yes.
Jay Magnus.
Yes.
And Kimberly Monachino.
Yes.
All right, that is passed unanimously, 8-0.
Okay, the next section is 7.12, as relating to the Department of Parks and Rec. I believe that the language there in section 2, under 7.12, reflects what Kimberly drafted, if you just want to confirm that.
I think that's pretty cut and dry. Parks and Rec gets more than a sentence now. Is there any discussion from anyone on, sorry, on this? I'd like to make a motion then that we accept draft 7.12 regarding amending the charter to be moved on to council and placed on the ballot. Is there a second?
Second, Jay Magnus.
I'll call the roll. Twyla Jones?
Yes.
David Albright?
Yes.
Doug Detweiler?
Yes.
Russ Sipin, yes. Dean Martin?
Yes.
Jenny Spira?
Yes.
Jay Magnus?
Yes.
Kimberly Monachino?
Yes.
It passes 8-0. And I
Okay, the
see
last item
draft
that
8.01.
What you have is 8.01. This is just a straight repeal of the mayoral primary election. And really what this does is takes 8.01 as it currently exists and removes all the language as it relates to the primary, and puts all elected officials, mayor and council, in the same boat as far as timing of petitions and when the election is, so.
Okay, if I could make a statement here.
Absolutely.
Well, we've gone back and forth and go to September, go to August, do away with it, leave it the way it is. And in looking back in the past, there's been a lot said about allowing the public to decide what they want. This has been on the ballot twice, and the public have decided that they wanted a primary. The last time in November 2010, when 60.5% of the residents voted to keep the primary. I mean, this has gone before the public. It seems that anything we're looking at doing, as we've discussed before, by either changing it to September or eliminating it, you're going to take and make it difficult if someone who is on council wants to run for the position. Half of them can run without any risk to their seat. The other are being penalized because we're changing it. I mean, given all the discussion and given the fact that it's already gone to the voters and been approved by a nice margin, I think we should just leave it the way it is.
So, by repealing it, are we opening up that can of worms where some council have no worries about
Right.
running? But as it exists today, does that
No.
problem still
Well,
exist?
yeah,
I get it does.
well, it does with the primary, but not for a majority of the council people. I mean, say 3 council people want to run and 2 of them have to make that decision. Now they have the time. I think if we have the primary, say your incumbent mayor and 3 council people run with a May primary, only 2 of them are going to come out of it. The other 2 can go ahead and pursue their council seat. At least the one who's making the decision to go ahead with running for mayor knows he's got a 50-50 chance. You know, it's up to him from that point.
You have a good judge of whether,
Right, as
how you
opposed
did in the
to
primary.
having
If you
4
were-
people running.
If you were second with 4%, you probably should go back for your council seat.
Right.
Yeah. You know. But yeah,
Well-
go ahead.
No, I was just gonna, I'm gonna kind of
The other
disagree. I
two.
mean, I understand what Jenny's saying, and we've heard comments before. I know the mayor's made them before, and Drew's made it. If you're gonna run for the mayor, that's your goal. You shouldn't have a fallback position where if I don't get this far, I still got this over here.
But
that I
that's where
can-
we go round and round. That's
I
only
know,
true for
I know,
4,
that's
not
where
for all
we're
7.
still,
Right.
exactly, so.
I guess on one hand, you have to weigh what offers the potential for more disarray in the government, and is it the fact that it may be affecting some council people and their ability to run for mayor, or is the bigger risk that we could end up with a lame duck mayor for 6 months? And what's the worst out of those two? How could it adversely affect the functioning of government, for lack of a better term?
I tend to agree with Jenny. I feel like as much as we've talked about this, I feel like we need to make a change, but I don't think we came up with any good solutions that didn't cause another issue or really resolve what we were trying to do. So, and I don't know, I struggle with pushing this one forward. I think it's got a dim possibility of making it through, but that's kind of for the voters to decide. But I just don't, I don't know, I don't feel like we've fixed anything necessarily.
I agree with Jenny too on the part that I'm not so sure I support the removal of the primary, but I kind of think that we're putting it up to the public. Like, the best solution we've come up with is either removing it or keeping it the way it is. That's the best solution we've come up with, and it's like, what do you all think? If you don't like it, I'm not sure I like it, but let the voters decide kind of thing. Or maybe it doesn't make it through council like Doug said, but whatever. We haven't come up with a good solution other than removing it altogether. And do the people want that or not? Maybe they don't.
There's benefits and drawbacks from doing it either way. You know, I was just sitting here thinking, okay, well, if there's 4 people and the incumbent mayor and one of the council people get out of the race or get through the primary, if one of them drops off, the other one's immediately in. Whereas if you didn't have a primary, you still have a couple people going to the election. You know, could that happen? Sure. The possibilities probably slim to none, but you never know. So, I mean, there's all kind of variables in here. You know, I was just coming at it from my gut feeling. It's a pain in the neck to go through that primary when you're, you know, running for election. Chances are I won't be doing it or dealing with it again. But, you know, for the next person coming up, I know what it's like, and it was miserable. And I really don't like the idea of somebody sitting there for 6 months knowing they don't have a job. I think that's a bad situation for a city to be in. Sitting there from May thinking, somebody else is taking my seat 6 months from now, and kind of just blowing the rest of it off. And not everybody would do that. A lot of people would, you know, still give it their all because they were elected, and that's what they should do. But, you know, there may be some sour grape people out there that wouldn't. So, I don't know. Like I said, I come from it both sides. I also believe if you're all in, you're all in. I really believe that. I don't think you should have a fallback position or that be your determining thing. Well, I'm not going to run because I'll have to give up my council seat. That shouldn't have anything to do with it. You either feel you're qualified, you have the ability, you have the desire, and you feel you can move the city forward, and you're going for it. Or, you know, if you're going to say, well, I just might not make council, I don't know if you're a viable candidate. Yeah. Yeah, just to create a primary or to see how I'll do, get my name out there. Right.
Well, and Mr. Yates, that's where I absolutely agree, and that was my argument years and years ago, that this is not a partisan election.
Go for it. Nothing keeping them out of the general.
So, I absolutely respect every opinion here because they both make sense. Whether you're for it or against it,
You know, we talk about the lame duck, but that, no matter what, okay, this is a mayoral position, say it's an industrial position, how many people at the Chrysler plant, the executives, knew that in 6 months or 12 months, they were going to be out of their job? But they still did their job and finished things up, and I think most people would do that. I'm also looking back at the fact that, you know, in November 2006, it was on the ballot, and in November 2010, it was on the ballot. And both times it passed with over 60%.
Was it on twice? I just remember it being on one time and it going through. This,
It was on twice.
The what passed, you're saying it passed that the voters
keep the
wanted
primary.
a primary?
Wanted the primary.
And that's a valid point, too.
Yeah, but we've also had issues that we've tried to amend before, and they didn't make it either. So, I mean, again, I
Logical.
like to leave it up to the public and, you know, let them decide.
But
It-
they
it may
have
not make it again.
decided.
It may-
That's what I'm
Well,
saying,
we've-
they have decided.
Yeah, but we've had other amendments that have, from previous
People
charter
vote-
commissions that have not
People vote
passed through, and
differently across the area.
we're reissuing them again. I mean, we're revisiting those same ones.
So if things change, that we need to do this again. 'Cause you're saying that they voted, and it's been said they want the primary.
Yes, that's what yes.
And I don't think anything has changed
What-
since 2010,
Mhm.
or since
It's
2006
not a
that
vote you want
affects
right under your
this.
name, though. I don't think anything has changed since 2010. You know, I mean, things,
And I
they could
think,
have changed, they may not have.
right, we're revisiting 7A.01 because that got a lot of negative publicity. I mean, that's something that needs to be clarified. That is something that definitely needs to be changed. It needs to be clarified. There was a lot of negative publicity put out about that last time. People didn't understand it. It is a confusing issue, and they didn't understand it, and that's why it was defeated. I mean, there were people talking about, oh, they're going to put a mega mall in because they're changing the zoning, and, you know, so, and people, oh, we don't want a mega mall. So, you know, that's something, yes, that needs to go back on, even though it was voted before. And we need to make more of an effort to get the information to the people so they understand what it's doing and what it's trying to accomplish. But with the primary, it's no different now. There hasn't been any major changes that should affect the fact that if the people said we want a primary 8 years ago, and the people said 4 years ago we want a primary, why put it out there again at this time? I'm done.
is there any more discussion? I feel we did ask for the legislation. We do have the legislation, so I'm going to call for a vote on whether or not we shall accept draft 8.01, which would place in front of council and on the ballot the elimination of the mayoral primary. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Mr. Martin seconded it. I will call the roll. Twyla Jones,
Yes.
David Albright,
Yes.
Doug Detweiler,
No.
Russ Sipin, yes. Dean Martin,
Yes.
Jenny Spira,
No.
Jay Magnus,
No.
Kimberly Monachino.
Yes.
And with that, we have 5 yeses,
3 noes.
3 noes, and it will be moving on there, assuming that it even gets by council.
Yeah.
That's the other thing, we're right.
No.
I know where Drew was going too with this, so.
Yeah.
We all know where Drew was going with that, right? All right, and I believe that is it for the legislation that we had in front of us.
Well, you didn't put in your personal.
So. I'm just running. There we go. All right, I gotta get organized here, so bear with me for a second. Charter there.
New business.
Is there any new business that we have yet to discuss regarding charter amendments? To my knowledge, there is not.
Nothing here.
Then I am going to bring up, well, this is new business, so I'm not confident that this could be our last meeting, but it could be our last meeting. So I'm going to do this now and just get ahead of the game here. And that is that a couple of years ago, they called to have a Charter Review Oversight Committee. And the purpose of the Charter Review Oversight Committee was to get 3 persons, preferably who served on the last Charter Review Commission, to meet quarterly. And you would meet with Mr. Ceresi. We met in the jury room once a quarter, somewhat as just to discuss, short discussion to see if there is anything that potentially is seen out there for violations of the charter or things, notes to present to the next Charter Review Commission or anything like that. I knew that Drew was going to be absent today, and I think that he would be very, very good. So Mr. Romito did say that he would be happy to serve on this committee. If it serves me correctly, Mayor and Mr. Maestros, and you could confirm this, this is just an oversight committee. There is no power. Somebody on this committee could sit on another board or commission.
2 different things. Oversight Committee is a recommending body to council, making recommendations to changes, yes. But most of our language concerning our boards and commissions says, shall not sit on any other board or commission. It doesn't matter whether or not they are reviewing, recommending, or otherwise. It doesn't make that distinction.
Is there a difference between a board, a commission, and a committee?
Not as far as how we've treated it. About the only one that I can think of is a few years back, we made some amendments to the golf course, Glen Eagles Committee, or the Golf Course Oversight Committee, Advisory Board, and we've expanded the number of people on it and really, I think, somewhat disbanded that committee, but
They still meet.
they still meet and they advise, and their recommendations are taken for what they're worth. But it's, from the standpoint of how the city's going to treat it, any board or commission or committee is going to, if you're on it, you're going to be precluded from sitting on another one.
Okay, so,
That's the bottom line.
okay, then I'm going to reconvene with Mr. Romito and let him know that. But in the interim, are there any volunteers who would like to sit on the Charter Review Oversight Committee? I did it last round. What's kind of preventing me from doing it now, aside from the fact that it's burning me out a little bit, is I probably will not be here over the next 5 years. There's a very good chance that I'll be moving close to where I work in Cleveland. So,
I have a question, Russ, is once a quarter necessary? Do you think maybe twice a year would be enough? Or what's your recommendation after sitting on it for that long?
I would say that twice a year would be good, and I don't know if it's legislated that it has to be once a quarter. I can't speak to that, but if it were twice a year, based now on what happened over the last 4 years, I think that twice a year would be fine.
Unless something came up, and then you could.
Exactly, and then you have a very small group of people that you just have to.
I would ask, though, from your perspective, since you were on it, I mean, council, if something comes up regarding the council, or the charter, council can always address it and put something on whatever upcoming ballot. So what extra benefit did the oversight committee add?
To the last couple of years, I would say there was nothing out there that we added to charter review or anything like that. This really was brought up as I'd say a reaction to the fact that in the past the city had lost some lawsuits regarding violations of the charter, and that the viewpoint at that time was, yes, council can do something, but they didn't, numerous times. There were quite a handful of times that the charter was violated. So I think that's what sparked this. No volunteers.
I'll volunteer.
If it's twice a year, I'll do it.
Okay.
If it's four
Yeah.
times a year, I'm out.
At least there's an end.
So that's Mr. Martin and Mr.
You
Detweiler.
can't serve on any other boards. Is that true?
That's the reason I'm doing it.
Well, according to Mr. Maestros, you can.
I'm telling, it depends on, I'm trying to look for the language on it.
And remember, we are powerless. I think that is almost, it may even be in the, I don't know if it's in the legislation itself, but we have no power on the Charter Review Oversight Committee. All you can do is kind of,
If I could, it says the duties of the commission shall be an advisory and recommending body to the administration, council, and subsequent charter review commissions. Copies of the commission's minutes, reports, and recommendations shall regularly be filed with the clerk of council and with the mayor. Powers and duties of the commission are general in nature and shall not be final, determinative, or legislative effect. So, standard recommending language, but it's a recommending body.
okay.
And as it's currently set up, it is quarterly.
So it is, okay.
Doug's off.
So what would have to be done?
That's legislative to change. I mean, the commission shall meet as needed, but at least quarterly at the call of the chairman in order to fulfill the commission's duties and responsibilities.
So would council have the ability to change that upon the recommendation from the Charter Review Committee, perhaps at the time that we present our report?
That's just 14601, which council established 5 years ago, coming out of the last Charter Review Commission.
Okay. Is there a third?
I'll be a third. If,
And if
yeah.
I have a sneaky suspicion that Mr. Ramito would like to sit on some other boards.
Okay. Yeah, that would be fine.
But what I will do is this. Mrs. Monachino, I will confirm with Drew, and if Drew says, yes, I won't sit on anything else, that's okay. Since he did express an interest, would that be okay with you? And I will keep you, all right, so we'll have. Mr. Maestros, I don't really know exactly what to do here, because we didn't, I believe a vote's gonna be necessary from the Charter Review Commission to appoint the Charter Review Oversight Committee. I believe that's what we did the last time.
Right. I mean, if we have 3 members, I mean, like it says provided 3 members from the most recent Charter Review Commission, which is this one. So if you have 3 members that are grudgingly volunteering, then we can vote on those members if you want, and then we'll forward those names on to council.
Maybe put one in as an alternate, so that if Drew removes, then the alternate would step up. So make your motion for 3 and an alternate.
Bravo. I will
That's
make,
the mayor.
right. I will make a motion to include on the upcoming Charter Review Oversight Committee, the three individuals, Mr. Martin, Mr. Detweiler, and Mr. Ramito, with an alternate being Mrs. Monachino. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Second, who did second that?
Mr. Albright.
Mr. Albright. And I will call the roll. Twyla Jones?
Yes.
David Albright?
Yes.
Doug Detweiler?
Yes.
Russell Sipin? Yes. Dean Martin?
Yes.
Jenny Spira?
Yes?
Jay Magnus?
Yes.
And Kimberly Monachino.
Yes.
Thank you. And thank those of you who volunteered. It's, you'll have fun. It's twice a year, hopefully.
Not yet.
Not
They already
yet.
said yes, Russ.
Don't keep talking.
Okay. Is there any other new business? Really, the only thing that we have left to do is just prepare the presentation, which really is just running down bullet points to council. And Mr. Martin did volunteer to speak, did you not, at the,
Well, I was gonna suggest, since there's so many amendments, that
we
we
take
could all,
turns?
everybody could take one, you know? I mean, if that's, you know, that's okay with everybody.
I think that would be
I mean,
fine.
since Mr. Sorese said he would like us all present anyways when we present these to council.
Makes sense.
So, do I have a volunteer to perhaps bullet point this for us, or do you think we would just go run down it right now? Because I was not prepared to I don't even remember now how many amendments that we have, so.
We got them right here if you want. You
Hey,
got
Russ, I have all 9 of them listed here, because I just wanted to make sure I was on the same page, so.
Okay, then I'm gonna, would you please run
Sure.
down the bullet points there?
You just want to go numerically, okay?
Sure.
First item numerically is 3.01, which is establishing term of council beginning December 1st.
I'll take that one if there are no volunteers.
I know which one I'm volunteering.
Mr. Albright, that is yours. The next one?
The next one is 4.04, relating to vacancy in the office of the mayor.
I could take that one.
Twyla, okay. And then 4.05A, powers of the mayor as it relates to mayor being safety director.
I'll do that.
What was the number again, Mr. Maestros?
4.05A. And that was Jay.
That was Mr. Magnus.
Yes.
And then 4.05B, which is at the powers of the mayor, that the mayor will have a vote on boards and commissions.
I'll take that.
That will go to Mr. Detweiler.
7A01, changes to zoning.
I'll take that.
Let's say that's got Russ written all over it.
Yeah.
7.05, civil service.
I'll take that.
Yes, Mrs. Spira.
And 7.12, parks and rec, duties and appointment.
You take that one.
Yeah, that's yours.
All about the
Heck,
parks
yeah.
and rec.
8.01, elimination of the mayoral primary.
I will take that one.
Surprise.
And then Drew gets use of, or amendment to allow the use of electronic notification, 12.04.
I may switch with him.
You know what?
He may want to take the primary. In fact, let's do that.
I think he will be fine with that.
Yeah.
Okay, Drew's getting the mayoral primary.
Yep.
What was the last one? Use of electronic?
12.04.
Electronic notification, 12.04.
What I will do in order to further clutter your mailboxes, I will send out final versions of all 9 of these to everybody, with the changes we discussed today, and then you'll have them all, but you'll also have yours, so.
Will those be redlined? Is that possible?
How about, I'll give you one of each, so you'll get a lot, but at least you'll have a clean version. Because council, initially, what I'll do with them is give them a red line version, and by the third and final reading, it'll be a clean version that they ultimately approve. So they'll have a red line version at first. So if everybody wants red line, I'll get you that.
Yes, please.
Okay.
Indeed.
Did we decide when this meeting is? Oh, we have not gotten there.
The next meeting?
The meeting that will be
Present
presented.
to council.
I think that we can be ready, assuming that everybody is okay and can be there on the 27th.
I prefer the 27th. The 10th, I would not be able to make June 10th, so.
Agree.
Me neither.
So, 27th.
27th, Twyla, are you
Yes, that'll be good.
going down there? Great.
The 27th at that council will be the first reading.
Yeah, and we would be 7 o'clock?
We'll make sure Drew's not traveling. Yeah. 7 o'clock that?
Yeah. Is that the time that we would be?
The caucus starts at 7. They will discuss all items on the agenda at the caucus. I don't know, we would probably want this discussion on TV, right? For the 7:30 portion of it?
Okay.
So the council will start at 7:30, the council meeting, the portion that gets televised, and I think it would be valuable to have you guys addressing each of these on the televised version, so.
I agree.
I
So
would
that would be
agree.
7:30 would be that portion of the meeting would start.
Would there be a reason for us to address the caucus before?
You'd be repeating it again, but you might,
Or at least maybe lightly touch on with them what we're going to do and how we're going to do the presentation?
I think it'd probably be a good idea. Does it make sense to suggest starting the caucus earlier since we have 9
Well,
of
I
these?
think we are already, though. Let me look. I am pretty sure that we have a couple of the presentations that night.
Ted, do
Doing
you
a
think there's any
comprehensive
reason
plan
it
at
would
6:15 to 7.
be addressed in caucus?
Could run over it quickly, I guess, if you're just gonna say what you're gonna do.
Right.
They should know what's,
Well, I think if
Are you
you're at the-
leaning towards not really?
Right, okay.
And Gary will be there. I mean, Gary will be at the caucus, I'll be
That's
there, the
true.
mayor will be there. I mean, if there's any questions, and then they'll be able to ask them of you at the,
Yeah. Mhm.
you know, make sure Shannon knows so she can send something to everybody and.
right.
Russ?
Yes, ma'am.
Speaking of format, how do you want this? I mean, would we read the section that's we're proposing, submitting, and then discuss why?
I think that give the nature of the change and the reason why we believe that change was necessary.
Okay, but, okay, for instance, section 3.01, council number and terms. All the legislative powers of the cities except as otherwise provided by this charter, et cetera. I mean, just that section, not read the whole proposal, but read the section that we have
Change.
said should be changed,
Yes.
Correct.
and then explain the thoughts of the commission.
Correct. Now, I don't believe that in the past we've even sat and read the entire legislation. I think that
Okay, so it's not necessary.
I don't think it's necessary because when we get to 4.05A and 4.05B, I think instead of sitting there and reading the entire thing
Okay,
with a
Yes.
bunch of council people
of them
getting
are printed.
glassy-eyed,
right.
I
And they
think
will be out that night, so everybody should be able to pick up copies of all the resolutions, right?
right.
That-
It will, they'll receive it prior to the meeting.
No, I don't mean council, I mean anybody who would be
Right,
in the audience.
So I would say instead of reading the entire thing, hit the sizzle.
What it is
Yep.
and why.
Right.
Okay.
That's why it'll be handy, so we'll have the red line copies to say,
right,
we're going from
what
here
the
to here.
difference.
There you go.
Yeah.
We're selling them, right? We're selling what we're
You're selling it.
pitching here. Yeah.
Benefits sell.
10 minutes apiece.
That was a joke.
And let's be honest, there's really going to be only one of these that I think anybody's hung up on, so.
7801.
No. So, okay, we all have our duties, and we will be prepared to meet up here at the council meeting on May the 27th. At 7:30, right, for the presentation. I'll probably be up here early just to watch, so, but yeah, presentation by 7:30, so. Is there any other new business? No? I would invite any additional audience comments at this time. Do we have any miscellaneous to bring up? No? Other than my personal thanks to each and every one of you for volunteering to do this. I think this has been a phenomenal commission. Every single one of you have provided very important information, and from the bottom of my heart, and I can't speak for all the community, but you really did a community service, I think, and you did a great job. So,
Well, thank you for serving and for serving as chairman. We all really appreciated that.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm the only one that was silly enough to say yes, so, but you're all welcome. I do not believe that we have a next meeting, if I'm not mistaken, other than the one on the 27th.
Great.
So, I will make a motion to adjourn this meeting at 8:10. Is there a second?
Second.
I believe Mr. Magnus got there first. I will call the roll. Twyla Jones?
Yes.
David Albright?
Yes.
Doug Detweiler?
Yes.
Russ Sipin, yes. Dean Martin?
Yes.
Jenny Spira?
Yes.
Jay Magnus?
Yes.
And Kimberly Monachino?
Yes.
Thank you all. We are adjourned.
Good job.
And thank
you.
my rudeness, Mayor and Mr. Maestros, your input has been invaluable.
Thank you.
I like the format, by the way, and I should thank Mr. Sorese as well. So now we're adjourned,
Very well.
because it's never official until I bang the gavel.